In 2024, a formation of stealth fighters did something physics said was impossible. They flew deep into the most heavily defended airspace on Earth, struck their targets, and returned without a single refueling tanker. The standard American F-35 simply cannot do this. The jet they flew technically shouldn't exist, but the jet they flew has a secret. According to the Pentagon, it shouldn't exist. This is the story of how one country took America's most locked-down fighter and jailbroke it. Israel was given America's top fighter jet, but they faced a problem that made it almost useless for their most important mission. So, in secret hangars, Israeli engineers did what no other nation would dare. They tore the F-35 apart and rebuilt it into something far more powerful. This wasn't just an upgrade. It was a complete transformation, done under a unique agreement that broke all the rules for everyone else. These are the forbidden modifications that created a weapon the world had never seen before. When Israel took delivery of its first F-35s, they named it the Adir, meaning Mighty One. On paper, it was a game changer, but one terrifying reality overshadowed its power. The jet's standard combat radius is around 670 nautical miles, or about 1,140 kilometers. The problem? Israel's primary adversary, Iran, is roughly 500 kilometers away. For Israel, 670 miles isn't the limitation. It's a death sentence. It means the jet runs out of fuel halfway to Tehran. A simple, brutal calculation showed that a standard F-35 couldn't strike deep inside Iran and make it back home. It was a one-way mission. Relying on their small fleet of aging refueling tankers was a massive gamble. These slow, vulnerable tankers would be easy targets, and losing even one could cripple a mission. The F-35, the supposed key to their national security, was chained by its own fuel tank. The Pentagon's rules for F-35 partners are absolute. The jet is a closed system. No one is allowed to integrate their own technology. You can't touch the software, you can't modify the hardware, and heavy maintenance happens only at US-run facilities. For any other country, trying to alter the F-35 would be a breach of contract, an act that could sever their military relationship with the United States. But Israel's survival often depends on being the exception to the rule, and they negotiated a deal that no one else could get. What happened next was unprecedented. While the F-35 program was designed to prevent any country from meddling with its advanced technology, Israel secured a unique agreement after years of tense negotiations. The US granted Israel permission to do the unthinkable, open up the F-35 and install its own homegrown systems. This wasn't an illegal act, but it was a privilege forbidden to every other F-35 operator on the planet. This special deal was born out of necessity. Israel argued that to face its unique regional threats, it needed to be able to adapt its fighters in real time, without waiting for a US-approved software update. They needed to connect the F-35 to their own intelligence networks and arm it with their own specialized weapons. Understandably, the Pentagon was hesitant. Allowing one country to tinker with the world's most sensitive military hardware was a huge risk. But Israel's track record of modifying American F-15s and F-16s, and the fact that its innovations often benefited the US military, helped seal the deal. In hangars at Nevatim Air Base, Israeli engineers from companies like Elbit Systems and Israel Aerospace Industries got to work on turning the standard F-35 into the F-35I Adir. The first villain to defeat was geography. To solve the one-way trip to Iran, they had to overcome the jet's limited range. But adding fuel tanks to a stealth jet is usually suicide. It ruins the radar profile. So, how did they cheat physics? The solution came in two forms. Either stealth-coated external drop tanks that could be jettisoned, or conformal fuel tanks, CFTs, that blend seamlessly with the jet's fuselage. Covered in advanced radar-absorbent materials, these tanks allow the Adir to carry significantly more fuel, pushing its mission range to over 1,700 kilometers and making the impossible math of striking Iran possible. But extending the jet's range was just the first challenge. The real problem was its brain. The F-35 runs on a closed, American-controlled network, giving Israel no data sovereignty. So, they engineered a plug-and-play addition to the main computer. This brilliant workaround allows the Israeli Air Force to run its own command, control, and intelligence software on top of the American system without altering the core code. This gives the Adir an independent, secure network, linking it to other Israeli assets like F-15s, drones, and even ground-based missile defenses like Iron Dome and David's Sling. With an independent brain, the Adir could now think for itself, but it still needed to win the electronic duel. The American F-35 is programmed to fight American enemies, but Israel faces Russian-made S-300 air defense systems, often modified by local crews. The F-35's standard software might not even recognize what it was looking at. So Israel integrated its own electronic warfare platform from Elbit Systems. It doesn't replace the American suite, but adds a crucial layer, giving the Adir tailored jamming and detection capabilities designed to counter the exact radar frequencies used by its enemies. The Adir could now fly into the most hostile airspace, not just invisible, but ready to electronically blind anything that might find it. The F-35I Adir didn't remain a theoretical marvel for long. It was put to the test. In 2018, the head of the Israeli Air Force announced that Israel had become the first country to use the F-35 in combat, conducting strikes on 2 different fronts. Then, in March 2021, an Adir achieved a major milestone, shooting down 2 Iranian drones. These engagements proved the jet was lethal, but its greatest test was yet to come. According to multiple reports during strikes in 2024, the Adir was central to penetrating Iranian airspace and demonstrated its ability to neutralize advanced Russian-made S-300 air defense systems. The modified F-35s showcased their true purpose. They flew deep into hostile territory, their extended range giving them the endurance they needed. Their stealth allowed them to approach undetected, while their unique Israeli electronic warfare suite jammed and confused enemy radar systems. But the Adir's most revolutionary role wasn't just as a strike aircraft. It was as a flying sensor and network hub. Flying invisibly near an enemy target, an F-35I could use its powerful sensors to identify and track an S-300 battery without ever turning on its own radar. It would then securely transmit that targeting data to older, 4th-generation F-15s and F-16s flying further back. These jets, loaded with heavy bombs, could launch their attack based on the Adir's data, never having to expose themselves. This is network-centric warfare in its purest form, a force multiplier effect, where one jet's stealth makes the entire fleet deadlier. It's a capability validated over thousands of combat sorties. After resisting for years, the Pentagon just effectively admitted Israel was right all along. The range limitations that plagued Israel are also a massive concern for the U.S. in the vast expanses of the Pacific. Inspired by the success of the F-35I Adir, the U.S. Air Force is now formally exploring adding the exact same kind of external fuel tanks to its own F-35s, with funding requested in the fiscal year 2026 budget. The forbidden modifications that Israel pioneered have provided battle-proven data showing that a stealth fighter can have both long range and survivability. The feedback from Israel's thousands of combat flight hours has dramatically improved the F-35's capabilities for all users. Israel's deep strike missions in 2024 proved that F-35s could penetrate heavily defended airspace, destroy advanced air defenses, and return home safely, all without refueling. This real-world validation was something the U.S. simply couldn't get from simulations. It was a clear demonstration that Israel's unique partnership, their insistence on being the exception, delivered results that benefit the entire F-35 program. The story of the F-35I Adir is about strategic necessity. Israel took America's most advanced fighter, a system designed to be uniform and unchangeable, and, with special permission, remade it in its own image. They solved its greatest weakness and integrated it so deeply into their own military ecosystem that it became something new entirely. The Mighty One is now a long-range strategic weapon, an electronic warfare powerhouse, and the central node in a vast interconnected web of military assets. It's a testament to the idea that in the high-stakes world of geopolitics, the most effective weapon isn't just the one you're given. It's the one you adapt to survive. The Adir proves that sometimes the rules have to be bent to face the threats of tomorrow. And it leaves us with a compelling question. In the future of warfare, will success belong to those who follow the plan, or those who dare to rewrite it? These modifications turned the F-35 from a standard fighter into a custom-built weapon, perfectly engineered for Israel's unique challenges. The story of how nations adapt, innovate, and break the mold to survive is a powerful one. If you're fascinated by this kind of military ingenuity, take a moment to subscribe for more in-depth stories like this one.